The Second World War is coming to a conclusion in 1944. Atami, a former Finnish commando, has decided to abandon the fight in the middle of Lapland's wildness. Atami continues to pan for gold beside the river with the help of his faithful dog and a strong horse, not giving up until he discovers even the smallest bit of gold that indicates he is headed in the right direction. Confirmed, Atami starts digging trenches all over the place, ignoring the planes flying overhead as they prepare to enter a conflict he does not want to be involved in. After days of seemingly fruitless hole digging, he finally finds a substantial gold deposit, and his eyes well up with happiness. Atami carefully hides the enormous deposit in his tent, breaking it up into a significant number of nuggets. He stays up all night to make sure no one robs him. Atami collects all of the gold the next morning, puts it in a sack, and rides off on his horse with his dog at his heels. He meets a troop of Nazi soldiers under the command of General Bruno a few hours later. The soldiers have a truck full of abducted ladies whom a soldier named Wolf exploits, and a deadly tank. Atami keeps riding by them, making eye contact with Bruno, but otherwise ignoring them. Knowing that Atami is riding to his own death, Bruno steps in to stop Wolf from shooting him. Unfazed by the horrific scene, Atami keeps driving down the road and encounters Nazi-left bodies. He eventually runs into a truck with 4 additional soldiers, who tell him to get off his horse. The gold is found when the soldiers examine the bags. But anticipating the future, Atami orders his dog to flee. The agile animal avoids the bullet when one of the soldiers tries to shoot it. Atami is referred to as Grandpa by another soldier, who also attempts to shoot him. Atami quickly reaches for his dagger and stabs the soldier in the head, killing him. The remaining troops fight Atami hand-to-hand in an attempt to exact revenge. When shooting breaks out, he expertly uses their bodies as shields while wielding his knife. When Bruno and the others return to the location after hearing gunfire, they find the carnage's aftermath and no sign of Atami. For Bruno examines one of the corpses and discovers a secret gold nugget in the soldier's pocket, he decides to go for Atami. The tank starts shooting at Atami when the Nazis find him on the road a little while later. Atami encourages his horse to run more quickly, narrowly avoiding each bullet but inadvertently stepping into a minefield. Confident of an easy win, Bruno orders his soldiers to stop firing and waits impatiently for Atami's apparent death. However, Atami is injured but survives because the horse takes the brunt of the blast. He says goodbye to his horse, dazed and confused, and then gets ready to launch a counterattack. Atami swiftly recovers the gold that dropped out of the bag as the Nazis approach. When Bruno notices this, he stops his cars so that Atami can get the gold without endangering themselves. Atami takes a rock with the gold as well. Atami throws the rock at a mine before Bruno orders the firing to start, causing an explosion that effectively covers the area with smoke. Atami uses his panning plate as a makeshift barrier when the Nazis start shooting. Following a few minutes of random shooting, Bruno sent a young soldier to look into the situation. A mine hits the soldier, and the explosion that follows kills him. After that, Bruno sends 2 men to guard the sides of the route, but they also unintentionally set off mines and perish. The Nazis discover that Atami is no longer there after the smoke clears. Bruno, intent on pursuing him, gives 2 women the command to move forward for safety. Bruno, in the meantime, looks about and finds Atami's dog tag. The 2 women that were captured are now in front of the cars as the group continues to advance. When Bruno uses the tank's radio to call headquarters to inquire about Atami, he is met with startling information. They are told by their superiors to stop chasing and count themselves lucky not to be dead already. As it happens, Atami was the most feared commando in Finnish history, known for being a ruthless, vindictive soldier who had no superiors. Atami became a powerful figure after the Russians took his family and home during the Winter War. He became a lone executioner, hunting Russian patrols in the bush, and supposedly amassed more than 300 Russian deaths. Some called him Koshai the Immortal. Despite the news, Bruno is unfazed and continues to search for Atami in the hopes that the gold will buy him out of punishment because the Nazis are losing the war. Corby, meantime, keeps traveling until he comes to a burned-out truck with a dead person inside. He uses it as cover, stands behind it, and treats his wounds, pulling out bullets with his knife and rubbing dirt over them. Abruptly, his dog returns, obediently observing Atami from afar, proving its unflinching obedience. A few hours after falling asleep, Atami wakes up suddenly to the sound of a commotion. The Nazis have come, bringing with them trained dogs that are supposed to detect the scent of corpses. Atami reacts quickly and hides under the charred truck, watching the Nazis closely as they go by with their dogs after him. Taking advantage of the situation, he waits till the last vehicle comes and quietly stands below it, holding on to its underbelly. When Atami punctures the fuel tank, gasoline spills out, making it difficult for the dogs to detect his scent. Atami has a chance to flee as the soldiers stop pursuing in order to come up with a fresh plan. Regretfully, the dogs quickly pick him up and bark to make his presence known. Bruno releases the dogs to pursue Atami when he persists despite a soldier shooting him in the leg. Unfazed, Atami boldly lights a match, setting his gas-soaked clothes on fire and scaring the dogs, who flee. Atami dives into a nearby lake as a result of the troops pursuing him. Bruno tells his troops to wait for Atami to surface so they can breathe, but he stays underwater longer due to his extraordinary lung capacity. Assuming they have killed Atami, the troops finally open fire when his head comes up out of the water. 3 soldiers set out on a boat with the intention of recovering the gold, believing they have succeeded. But just as one soldier dives into the water, Atami strikes unexpectedly from behind and uses his dagger to neutralize him. When there is only blood visible, Bruno tells the second soldier to dive in. The frightened third soldier hesitates and tries to escape in the boat as the blood begins to surface once more. Wolf sees this as treason and shoots him. Taking advantage of the situation, Atami escapes while the soldiers fire indifferently by using the body of the fallen soldier as a shield. The water prevents Atami's devoted dog from following its master, despite its desire to do so. Atami finally makes it to the closest town after hours of grueling hiking, only to be horrified to see it engulfed in flames against the night sky. He takes sanctuary in a demolished gas station after being so exhausted. His leg hurts, making it difficult for him to rest and reminding him of the day he lost his family. He is about to nod off when he is startled awake by the sound of barking. When Atami emerges from his hiding place with his loyal dog, he finds a lit dynamite stick attached to its collar. He quickly takes it off and throws it away. He is later found by Bruno, Wolf, and Schutze, who then bound him to a signpost with a rope. Silent, Atami earns respect as a tough foe, and Schutze takes off his hat before Bruno and Wolf do the same as they leave with the gold bag. Bruno puts a nugget in Atami's pocket as a joke. Once the Nazis leave, Atami doesn't back down. He continues, forcing his injured leg onto a second nail, stepping on one of the signpost's nails to maintain his whole weight. Even though the pain is unbearable, it keeps him alive all night long. When a plane lands close to the gas station in the morning, the sign is shaken and Atami falls to the ground. When 2 pilots disembark in search of fuel, one of them finds Atami and his dog, who is barking nonstop. He is urged to shoot both of them by the second pilot, but when he hesitates, Atami hits the man's legs, causing him to fall and hit his head fatally. The first pilot is forced to look into the dog's constant barking, which gives Atami the chance to attack him with a brick from behind. Atami buried Bruno's nugget, thinking there was no chance left. The second pilot, however, starts to move, indicating that he is still alive. Atami recovers the gold and comes up with a scheme after seeing the pilot's potential utility because of his plane. Atami meticulously cleans his wounds of all bullets and foreign things, while the startled pilot looks on. He does this by cauterizing them with fire, securing them with wire, and then cleaning them with gasoline. Reluctantly, Atami leaves the devoted dog behind as she and the pilot board the aircraft. The path is later blocked by a downed plane that the Nazis come across. Wolf and Schutze approach the plane warily and find the dead pilot inside. They are shocked to discover Wolf's rope around the pilot's neck. When Bruno understands how dangerous Atami is and sees through his trap, he orders his troops to leave right away. The women are accompanied in the truck by 2 soldiers, and Eno laughs when he hears them discussing the circumstances. She emphasizes that Atami isn't actually eternal but just refuses to die, explaining that they won't be able to achieve what hundreds of Russians have perished trying to do. The Finnish word for it is sisu, which means unflinching bravery and unfathomable resolve. In keeping with Atami's unwavering attitude, Aino foretells the eventual downfall of all Nazis. One soldier collapses suddenly, and the other is pulled from the truck and crushed under an oncoming tank. When Aino reaches for the fallen soldier's weapon, Atami quickly gets on the vehicle and takes it away from her. He lets Aino have the firearm because he understands that these are prisoners. Atami scales the truck and stabs the driver through the roof, killing him. He then drags the lifeless body out so that Aino can take over the wheel. Atami is able to get atop the truck once they maneuver it closer to the tank. The girls use the dead body to trick the people in the tank when they begin to suspect them. Then Aino drives the truck with another that has most of the soldiers in it, and the girls quickly shoot them all dead, and Aino murders the driver. The people inside the tank recognize the danger and speed up as the vehicle veers off the road. Atami stays on top of the tank and uses his pickaxe to pound on the door until the tank applies its brakes and he falls to the ground. Atami swiftly scales the tank and fights Wolf in a fierce hand-to-hand duel. Only Bruno and Schutze remain in the tank after the two boxers exchange vicious blows and tumble to the ground. Atami strikes Wolf a few more times, but two more soldiers ride up on a motorcycle before he can land the last blow. They panic as they realize it's the fabled Atami. Taking advantage of the situation, Atami seizes the motorcycle and goes toward the tank. Wolf briefly thinks he has gotten away, but then the vindictive women show up and demand revenge. The tank eventually pauses to meet a pilot in his operational aircraft. Bruno kills Schutze without hesitation and takes off with the pilot in the plane, despite the fact that there is only room for one person. Atami unexpectedly shows up on the motorcycle and starts shooting right away. He places the motorcycle underneath the jet, brandishing his pickaxe, but he only succeeds in breaking the windows before takeoff. Bruno looks down, not realizing the motorcycle is empty, supposing they have left Atami behind. Atami uses his pickaxe to grip the plane and makes a risky maneuver, almost falling off but clinging to a wheel. He slowly enters by using his pickaxe to cut a hole in the floor of the bomb room. Bruno investigates after hearing strange noises and rejects the pilot's justification that the aircraft is old. When Bruno answers the door, Atami leaps at him, igniting a vicious fight. Their kicks and punches are vicious, with Atami showing the most expertise, but Bruno is able to overwhelm him because of his severe injuries. Bruno, frustrated that Atami won't give up or scream, uses a static wire to hit him harder, wondering why Atami won't die. Bruno tries to strike quickly with the metal end of the line, but Corby catches it with his hand, attaches it to the bomb, and then lets go. Bruno falls with the bomb, and as they hit each other, the explosion swallows them both. As the plane starts to shake severely, Atami, who is tired and desperate for a break, is hurled toward the ground. As it happens, the pilot was shot earlier and died as a result. In an attempt to save his life, Atami grabs the gold bag and fastens his seatbelt seconds before the jet plunges into a swamp and explodes again. Meanwhile, a Finnish troop sees a German tank approaching and gets ready for an attack. They are shocked to learn that it is actually Aino and the girls, with Wolf confined to the cannon. Atami survived the fall back at the swamp thanks to the water, and he uses his handy pickaxe to climb out while holding on to the gold bag. A few days later, Atami and his devoted dog ride the Nazi bike into the city of Helsinki. He enters the bank with such audacity that everyone there is frightened and uneasy. With a resolute expression, he dumps the gold bag at the front desk and asks for huge bills, stating that their lesser weight will make them simpler to carry